The Eiffel Tower does not have one fixed height. It actually grows every summer and shrinks every winter. That sounds impossible for a giant iron structure, but it's true. The tower is built almost entirely from iron. Iron is a metal, and metal physically expands when it heats up. This is basic physics, the same principle behind railroad tracks and bridges needing expansion joints. On hot summer days, direct sunlight beats down on the tower for hours. That sunlight warms the metal all the way from base to tip. As it heats, the whole structure expands outward and upward at once. This expansion can add around 15 centimeters to the tower's total height. That's roughly 6 inches, added purely from heat, with no construction involved. Nobody builds anything or adjusts anything. The iron itself simply stretches under the sun. In cold winter weather, the exact same metal contracts back down again. The tower settles quietly toward its baseline height once the air cools off. So, depending on the season, you are genuinely looking at a slightly different tower. Engineers actually planned for all of this back in the 1880s, when the tower was first designed and built for the World's Fair. That's not a small design detail either. Rigid metal structures that cannot handle expansion tend to crack, buckle, or warp badly under repeated stress over time. Ignore thermal movement in a design like this, and the whole structure eventually fails from fatigue. So the tower's iron framework was deliberately built with room to flex, not fight the heat every year. This is the same design thinking used in old iron bridges and railway lines from that era. Builders in the 1880s already understood that metal moves with temperature. They just had to build a tower tall enough to make that movement visible at scale. Here's the part most visitors never think about, and it's honestly the strangest piece of this whole story. The tower does not expand evenly in every direction at once. The side facing the sun heats up measurably more than the shaded side does. That uneven heating makes the tower lean very slightly away from the sun during the hottest parts of the day. It's an extremely small tilt, nothing dramatic to the naked eye at all. Visitors standing on the ground almost never notice any of this happening around them. The shift is far too gradual and far too even across such a massive structure to catch by eye alone. But engineers monitoring the tower with precise instruments can measure it clearly, year after year. They watch the tower rise and fall a little every single year, almost like clockwork. It happens almost like a slow, patient breathing pattern, expanding through summer and settling back down through winter. Honestly, that's what makes this fact so strange to sit with. A 19th century iron tower is quietly moving every single day, and nobody looking up from the street below can ever tell. The engineers who built it in the 1880s essentially designed a structure that breathes with the seasons, decades before anyone had the fine instruments needed to prove it was actually happening. That kind of foresight, baked into iron over a century ago, still holds up under modern measurement today. So the next time you visit Paris in summer, remember something simple. The tower greeting you is technically a few inches taller than the one visitors saw back in January. Same tower, same iron, same rivets, just a different temperature outside that day. Nothing was rebuilt, replaced, or bolted on differently between those two visits. 15 centimeters doesn't sound like much next to a landmark this massive, built all the way back in the 1880s. But it's measurable, real, and it repeats every single year without fail. Hit follow if that surprised you.